Hi, I'm James Martis with Plus One, a proud member of NTCA, and I want to welcome you to the Smart Rural Community 3-part Senior Safety Series designed to keep you safe online. You can expect to learn how to create strong passwords, what to do if you experience a data breach, and how to recognize phishing attempts before they catch you. Whether you watch the videos individually or as a complete set, you'll discover helpful tips and tools presented in a practical and straightforward way to protect yourself confidently. Your guide to online safety is around the corner. Well, let's jump right into responding to data breaches. Data breaches, what are they? Well, a definition that's useful: unauthorized access to personal or confidential information like social security numbers, financial data, health information, usernames, passwords, through accidental disclosure or deliberate theft. We often think deliberate theft, but sometimes it actually is just accidental. Nonetheless, there are data breaches that occur out there by companies with our data in them. I want to cover just a few that have happened over the past 12 to 24 months to kind of set the stage here. One, National Public Data. Just this past August, 3 billion records. This is a background check company. Think how terrifying that is. A background check company. They literally have personal information about people. They got hacked, and bad actors got full names, addresses, date of birth, phone numbers, emails, and social security numbers. Ticketmaster. Have you been to a sporting event recently or maybe gone to a concert? Increasingly, you can't buy a ticket or get a ticket to an event that doesn't go through Ticketmaster. Well, unfortunately, last year they had 560 million records affected, where bad actors have access to our names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, order histories, and partial payment information. Comcast Xfinity, just in October of 2023, had 36 million records affected. Everything from usernames to social security numbers. Think how terrifying that is. Let me just give you 3 more. InfoStealer malware compilation. This was announced just this past June, so just last month. Approximately 16 billion records affected. Now, what happened here wasn't that something was breached just last month. This was delivered to the dark web, this package of stolen information that had occurred over a number of years. And so what these bad actors have done is aggregated the data from multiple data breaches to say, hey, we've got, say, my email address with so many associated passwords that this email address is known to use. Think how valuable that could be to a bad actor who knows how to use brute force attacks, where, okay, maybe I only have this guy's Netflix and Gmail password, but I bet I could guess because he's probably reusing those passwords on other accounts. So I'm going to try to log into other accounts using bots. Now, in this 3-part series, we cover passwords. So if you haven't already watched that, you're going to want to definitely watch that session to make sure that you've got strong passwords. But the last 2 examples I want to give you are from AT&T, who got hit twice last year, and they took everything from call and text records to social security numbers. So again, these are just 6. And why does that matter? I'm about to terrify you here in just a minute, but here are a few more breach statistics that we should all know. It takes an organization an average of over 200 days to just even identify a data breach and over 2 months to contain it. So just think of all those breaches out there that we don't know about yet. Cyber attacks using stolen or compromised credentials increased 71% from 2023 to 2024. And almost half of us have had our personal information compromised by a data breach in the last 5 years. That's terrifying. Almost 9 in 10 data breaches involve the use of stolen credentials. Again, credentials being username and password. So make sure you watch that password session. But these last 2 statistics should really put this all into focus for us. So I just gave you, on the previous slides, just 6 examples over the past year or 2. In 2023, in the USA alone, we know of over 3,200 data compromises. Okay, that's what we know about. Now think about it. This year, we're still going to learn about things that happened in 2023. So that number is going to grow. And again, these are just things that we ultimately know or figure out or find out about. There's still going to be things that we don't know about. And in 2025, in the first half alone, we're averaging 9.5 data breaches a day, which is going to put us on track to beating that 2023 number. So well over 3,400, again, of what we will know about. Consider all the things that we don't know about. So put those six into perspective and all those numbers and the data that they have. Now multiply that by thousands. Now the FBI has a center that's called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or ICCC or IC3. You don't need to remember that. But the FBI, in effect, puts out this data for our seniors in particular for this session. So if you're 60 or over, last year in 2024, they got almost 150,000 complaints. Now, keep in mind, that means there are still other seniors who are affected by this. This is just that got reported to the FBI. And those 150,000 complaints resulted in almost $5 billion in losses. A gigantic increase from 2023, apparently 46% jump from the previous year, and a 43% increase in losses. You had 7,500 seniors last year with over $100,000 in reported losses to the FBI, with the average loss being $83,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't afford an internet scam that costs me $83,000. Now, what you see here is the growth over a 6-year period from 2018 to 2024. And in 2018, again, this is just what was reported to the FBI affecting seniors, those 60 or over. They reported $500 million in losses in 2018. That has now skyrocketed in 6 years through 2024 to almost $5 billion. And while the number of people affected has also increased from roughly 60,000 to maybe about 150,000, then the financial losses are growing much faster. So more people are getting affected every year, but it's becoming more and more lucrative to be a bad actor, to be a hacker, to be a scammer. We're getting taken for more and more money, and that should be terrifying. That's why we have to remain vigilant, and that's why we're putting out this series. So what are the top scams that are targeted specifically towards seniors? Now, again, according to the FBI's ICCC, this is how they describe the most popular scams targeting this group. Romance scams, where criminals pose as interested romantic partners on social media or dating websites and then take advantage of you, get access to your data or financial data. Tech support scams, we're probably all familiar with this, where criminals pose as technical or customer support for a non-existent problem. Think of that pop-up that's not really a virus, but makes me think that there is a virus, so then I call the number, and then ultimately I end up sending them money or they take money from me. There's also what's called grandparent scams, where criminals pose as a relative, usually a child or grandchild who's in great need. Grandma, I need bail money, or my car is broken down and I'm traveling across country, I need $2,000. Right, so there's a sense of urgency, and it's a loved one supposedly that's taking advantage of someone in our elderly population. There's also government impersonation scams. Think of this IRS notification or an email or a text message that says, you're about to be arrested if you don't pay these back taxes, and things of this nature. Very popular, very effective at getting us to hand over money to criminals. There are also sweepstakes and inheritance scams, which sounds just like it's named. We are told that we won something or that we are inheriting something, but to get that money, we need to pay a fee or a tax, and then we'll get all of this money, right? Very common, very popular, unfortunately very lucrative for bad actors. There are investment scams that can also be very lucrative. They're usually a bit more complex, but a senior or a person gets enticed into some investment that's really not a real investment, and they ultimately give money over to a bad actor. And a charity scam. Somebody calls me up maybe and says, hey, will you support this charity? The charity doesn't actually exist. I give them money, and now they've taken my money for the non-existent charity. So how can you find out if you have been involved in a data breach? Well, there's a couple of solutions and they're free. And I certainly recommend you do them. You should even start doing them right now while you're listening to me. You can pull out your phone and go to this website. And it's haveibeenpwned.com. That's how you pronounce it. Haveibeenpwned.com. And I've got the URL up here. And if you type in your email address, and some of us have more than one, so use all of them. Even if you're still working, you have a work email address, type in your work email address as well. You'll be surprised at what you'll find out. But I want to show you what I found a couple of years ago with an old account that I had, an old email account. So I put in my email address and it said that I was involved, according to haveibeenpwned.com, in 19 data breaches. One was a stock photography website, not surprising for the line of work that I'm in. I'm not going to go through all 19, but I want to point out one in particular because it's like that massive data breach that I referenced earlier in the session. But it's the third one here, the anti-public combo list. Like that other one that I referenced, this was a combination list. And so what hackers will do is they'll put together other lists of compromised breaches. And so they say, oh, here's James. Here's an email address that he uses, or here's email addresses he uses, and here are passwords that he has used as well. Now, if you've watched our password session, and again, if you haven't, definitely go watch it. You know that unfortunately, too many of us reuse our passwords, and pretty much all of us are guilty of it at some level or another. And the problem with that is that once I am breached in an account where I'm reusing that password, that allows that bad actor to then likely break into my other accounts. And that's why using these kinds of services are so important, because you might think, you know what? I haven't used that service in 10 years. What do I care if they got my username or password? Because one, they've got your username. So now they've got half of what they need to break into your account. And if you're reusing that password, now they've got both parts. And that's why you need to make sure that if you're ever involved in these breaches, you've either closed that account and or changed that password, and likely updated your password as well in any other accounts that used the same password. Now, Have I Been Pwned also offers a couple of other neat features. One is you can click on passwords at the top of the website and type in a password that you use to see, has that password been involved in other data breaches? I know it sounds kind of funny, like, why would I give this website my password, right? But I want to show you why this can be very valuable. So just to prove a point, knowing that using the word password is unfortunately something we've all done before. But maybe you thought, you know what? I'm smart, James. I'm not just going to use the word password. I'm going to change the S's and I'm going to make them dollar signs, and the O is going to be a 0, and I'm going to put an exclamation point at the end. No one would ever figure out that password. Well, that particular password at the time, and this is a bit dated, used over 149 times, according to Have I Been Pwned in data breaches. And again, if you're using that password more than once, and that hacker or bad actor gets that password in one place, they're going to use that in other accounts to break in to other accounts, because unfortunately, too often we reuse our passwords. They also have a very neat Notify Me feature. So you can sign up. It's free to get emailed should that email address ever come up in a known data breach. So this is a great way. Unfortunately, it is reactive, right? It's not proactive. You're finding out after the fact, but at least get notified of when you've been involved in a breach, so you can protect yourself, make sure that you update your account information and maybe even your password across a number of accounts. But as I said, there are a couple of services. So there's Have I Been Pwned? There's also fsecure.com, and I've got the entire URL up there. But you can go to F-Secure. It's the identity theft checker under their free tools, and it's the same concept. You type in your email address, and you'll get a list of known data breaches where your email address has shown up. Now, I used the same email address, and this actually found some additional breaches, so that's why it's always good to test yourself out on both of them. Before I show you what it showed, just a quick snapshot, I want to remind you that this is advice that you're seeing in this 3-part series to make sure that you've got strong passwords, and if it has been breached, make sure you change it. And make sure you're using unique passwords and using a password manager. It's not just me saying it. It's not just the Smart Rural Community Program saying it. It really is everybody saying that, from major financial institutions to security experts. We have to do a better job of creating strong, unique passwords. But here's this report, just a quick snapshot. It showed me being in 32 breaches, this old email address that I used. So again, it'll be very informative. It'll let you see what kind of our data is out there, and unfortunately can be used to steal our identity, create identities based off of our information, if not access other accounts. And I think one of the important points I should bring up, if you put your email address in there and you find accounts that you don't remember, or you think, man, I don't even use that anymore, should I really care? You really need to think about it this way. If they've got your name and address, that's information about you. If they have your email address, you use that email address likely today. That's why you put it in there. So they already have part of your credentials to log into other accounts. So just keep that in mind, even if they don't have your password, much less also getting your password. Now, this is advice from this same center at the FBI. Most of this we cover, and we covered in more detail in our phishing session of this 3-part series, but I wanted to share it because this is what the FBI says in putting out these important reports, particularly as it affects seniors. But what it says is resist the pressure to act quickly when you're approached with a phishing attempt. Now, again, we cover this in our phishing session, where criminals are trying to create a sense of urgency so that you act quickly, your guard goes down, and you maybe provide account information or give access to your bank account, and in a situation where you normally wouldn't do that. Be cautious of unsolicited phone calls or mailings or door-to-door services. Never provide any personally identifiable information. Don't wire money to people or businesses you've only met online. That's something that happens, unfortunately, on those romantic scams that I mentioned earlier. You'll meet somebody online. They'll convince you over a period of time that they're in love with you. But if you could just help them out, with that electric bill, and that's how they start to get you to start sending them money. And that's why you should never do that. And the FBI advises that. You should ensure that your computer or antivirus software is up to date. We hear that all the time. It is very important. We shouldn't just update the operating software of our devices or our computers. You want to have an antivirus program. There's a free one that we discussed in the phishing session, so make sure that you watch that if you haven't already done so. But the last point is an important point, and that's if you have been a victim or you know someone who you think might have been a victim, you should report it to the FBI's ICCC or IC3 at ic3.gov. That way they can begin investigating, and you can protect yourself in the future should you be taken advantage of. Now, if you go to Have I Been Pwned or go to F-Secure and put in your email address and you see yourself listed with some organizations or some companies, it's a good idea to contact those companies, because sometimes if they're, it's your information that was taken in a breach at their company, to make up to you, sometimes they'll offer you free credit monitoring or maybe identity theft service for a year or two, and they'll offer that for free to make up for the fact that their data was compromised and it was really your data that was taken. Make sure that you document everything, because even if it's not a problem today, it might be a problem in a month or two or in a year or two, and you're going to want to remember that so that you can go back and say, well, actually my data was breached here. Maybe this is where it all started. Should you ever have to file a police report or let the FTC know that your identity's been stolen. We've talked about this before in other sessions, but enabling two-factor authentication, or MFA, it tends to knock out the ability of hackers to break into our accounts, because they're going to you're going to require an extra factor to log into your account or accounts, and that usually means getting a texted code to your cell phone. So if they don't have access to that, even if they have your username or password, they're not going to be able to get into that account. Setting up alerts is also really important. So again, if you've been in a compromised website, maybe it's a financial institution, log in, change the password, and set up notifications so that you're notified, hey, there's just a charge. When I go to the grocery store right now and I use my debit card, I get notified before I leave the grocery store that that amount was just charged, because I want to know immediately what's happening on my financial accounts. And that's just a good way so that you can stay on top of maybe any fraud that could be happening. But you can also set up credit report fraud alerts or credit freezes. You should look into them. They're a little different what those mean and how long that they last. But there's something that you can do, and it certainly makes it more difficult for someone to open credit or open a line of credit or even look at your credit. And, if you need to, just depending on the data breach you're involved in. But as I've said before, if you spot fraud, we all need to be a part of the solution to combat it. So if you've been involved in fraud, your identity's been stolen, you definitely want to go to identitytheft.gov to create a plan and to file an identity theft report. It's important for the future so that you can let others know, maybe when you're trying to get credit, I actually had my identity stolen, and that's why I might have some things on my credit report that I'm having trouble explaining because someone fraudulently used my credit. That's a wrap on this session of the Smart Rural Community 3-part Senior Safety Series. We hope you enjoyed learning about these tips and tools to keep you safe online. We would also like to thank our promotional partner, Calix, for their support of the series and the Smart Rural Community Program. To learn more, please visit smartruralcommunity.org/senior safety. See you next time and stay safe.